Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you my worm bins and show you how I made them. They're really quite easy to make. So far I've already got 2 worm bins, and today I'm going to make a third out of these plastic tubs. These are just real inexpensive from Walmart. I get the cheap ones. You get 2 that are identical, the same with lids. And you're going to need some just regular potting soil. And you can get that at Home Depot or Lowe's. Kitchen scraps, no meat, but just any vegetarian type stuff from your kitchen. Coffee grounds, good stuff. A drill and a screwdriver, or just a drill and do it by hand with a screwdriver. And some small screws. And that's about it. I used some shredded paper from my office that is also good in the worm bin. And I'll show you how it works. Now, here's a worm bin that I already have made, and I just want to show you what we've got inside. Take the lid off, and this worm bin is about 6 or 8 months old. It's been added to over time, and so there's quite a colony of worms in here. As you can see, if you dig down, there's all kinds of good little critters in here, and there's a bunch. And what they do is they basically eat the kitchen scraps, and they turn it into this beautiful, beautiful stuff that you can use in your garden. It's really, really rich in nutrients, and the plants absolutely love it. Okay, so the first step is just put the lids on your 2 plastic tubs, and just stack them on top of each other, temporarily like that, and get your drill. And what you want to do is just drill some air holes in for the worms. Super easy. And you just want to put a dozen or so. You want to make sure they get plenty of air that you need to breathe. Okay, now that we have our air holes in the top lid, we're going to screw the 2 bins together. So just take the lid off the top one. Now you can see this top bin is sitting just on top of the bottom bin. What we're going to do is we're going to take some screws, and we're just going to put screws in, and we're actually going to screw the bottom of one bin right to the lid of the one below it. Okay, so now you can see we've put 4 screws, and that holds the top bin to the lid of the bin below it. So you can see the lid is basically nested right to the bottom of the other bin. So now we have an upper chamber and a lower chamber. The worms are going to live in the upper chamber. This is where all their bedding and everything that they eat is going to be. What we're going to do next is put some holes in the bottom, and that's going to allow the liquid to go through the bedding and be captured into the bin underneath. This is going to hold our worm tea. Worm tea makes excellent fertilizer. It's just a liquid. You can pour it on your plants, and the plants absolutely love it. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to drill drain holes in the bottom of our tub. Now, I'm using a nice spade bit like this. If you don't have something like this, that's okay. You can just use a smaller drill bit. I like a big one just to allow plenty of drainage. Important though, make sure you drill your holes in the lowest part of the bin. If you look at my bin here, around the edge is actually the lowest. There's a bit of a lift up, and this area is higher than this area here. So you want to make sure you put your holes at the lowest point. That will get all of the liquid down out of the bottom of the bin. And just drill plenty of drain holes. Okay, now that we have our drainage holes drilled into the bottom of our bin, we're going to take some screen. And I get it in a big roll. It's pretty cheap from Lowe's or Home Depot. I tend to use it for other stuff like in my gutters and whatnot. But anyway, just cut off some strips and make them roughly the length or the width of your bin. And we're just going to lay them in there. And I'm going to do a couple layers across and then just screw them down. The idea is to keep it so the worms don't fall through your drainage holes. Now, if you notice, this screen is not all that particularly fine. Baby worms can go between the layers, and you're probably going to lose some worms through the holes. It's just inevitable. Don't worry if you see some dead worms in your worm tea from time to time. If some of you knows a better way of preventing that from happening, please let me know. But anyway, most of the worms don't have a problem going through the holes. Okay, now we have basically our worm bin is complete. Now we need to fill it up. As you can see, the screen mesh, it probably looks kind of blurry, but it's on the bottom of my bin now. That will keep most of the worms in the bin. Now, I use, from my paper shredder, just some paper, some soil, just regular old garden soil. You want to do it in layers. That lets the worms sort of decide where they want to hang out, and they will figure out where they want to be. And a little bit of that. Now, kitchen scraps. This is the fun part. Nothing is wasted in the kitchen anymore. You see there's coffee grounds, eggshells. Now, I like to crush up the eggshell. Just helps the material. So we just continue adding layers of kitchen scraps and paper shreds and dirt. Just want to show you what I've got in here. Some potato peels, onion, lettuce. I do have citrus in here. Go lightly on citrus. Some people say you shouldn't put any citrus. I think in some small quantities it's probably fine. This is something totally new I've just been experimenting with. It's wet from the dryer. It's one of those things that I typically just throw in the trash, but why put in a landfill what may go to some good? As far as I'm concerned, it's just organic stuff and it'll hold moisture. So all that's good stuff. Maybe some more paper shred and a little bit more dirt. You don't want it totally full. I mean, you want to have some airspace in here, but the more layers of bedding you've got, the better. And then just add some water. Alright, so now I'm just adding water. And the idea is you don't want to have it totally soaking wet. If you hear the water going all the way through and dripping out into the bottom where your worm tea is, that's probably enough. You don't want to start off with your worm tea being pure water. So just add enough. Do it slowly. Give the paper and other material a chance to absorb it. And you just don't want it too dry. But it's kind of a common misconception that worms like to live or swim in really mucky, wet soil. That's not true. You see them come out of the soil when it's raining hard because they're trying to breathe. So you don't want a soppy, goopy, wet mess. You just want moisture, but not too much. Alright, so now we need to add our worms. In my case, I'm actually expanding my other worm bins. I have 2 going, and I want to make a 3rd. And it's not springtime yet, so I don't really want to put these worms out in the garden just yet. So I'm just going to be expanding my worm hotel here. And I used to wear gloves, and I used to not like to touch them, and I guess over the last couple months I've just gotten to the point where I just pick up the worms by hand, and it is kind of gross, but it's just one of those things I've gotten accustomed to. So here's one here. I'm just going to see if I can catch him. That guy was too quick. Here's another one. And we'll just start moving them over. Oops, I dropped him. Oh, there he is. And I'm just going to start moving these guys into their new home. Alright, so what I've done is I've dug down pretty deep in my existing worm bin. And I've got a lot of the guys that are way down there. And I've moved them over. And they're now in their new home. And they are slowly starting to seek out new places to feed and to shelter. If you want to have just nothing but worms and leave all the organic material behind, the way to do it is you take it outside on a warm day and in the sun, and you just put a heap of this material down, and you keep spreading the material out to the sides. And what happens is the worms will run for cover, and they'll keep getting closer and closer towards the center of your pile. And every few minutes you just keep scraping some more and more of the pile away, and they'll all dive in deeper and deeper. Well, eventually you end up with a big ball of worms in the middle, and then you can scoop them up and transfer them or do whatever you want. I tend to just scoop up all the material and put the whole work straight in my garden or wherever. I want to show you something on this second bin that I have. You can see all of the worm castings, in other words, their poop, up on the sides of the bin. That tells me it's probably getting a little bit overcrowded in here, if not very overcrowded. So this project has long been overdue. If you see this, it means that the worms are crawling up and around the edges. They're trying to escape, trying to get to other locations that aren't quite so densely populated. And they like organic rotting stuff, but they really don't want to hang out in their own excrement. So this project is one of those that you should do every now and then, put them in the garden or expand. If you see this happening, probably need to add some fresh bedding and anyway, it's just one of those things that I've picked up along the way, and it's one of these projects you just have to do. So anyway, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm taking a combination of worms from each of my bins and putting them in my new bin. I don't know anything about worm genetics, but I figure mixing the two groups into one is probably a good idea. Okay, so now I have my 3 worm bins, and just top them off with some more shredded paper, some more fresh stuff from the kitchen, and I'm just going to put the lids on. But I want to show you, I did wipe down the sides, not real well, I didn't clean it spotlessly, but on my older bins now that I've wiped down the edges, I can see if later on they start climbing up the sides and leaving their worm castings on the sides again later on. So I'm just going to button these up. And that's how you make a worm bin. Now I just want to show you on the inside of one of my older existing bins. This is all the worm tea. And this has been going all winter, and you can see there's quite a bit of worm tea in there. And I'm just going to pour it out into my container here. And then this spring I'm going to go ahead and put that into the garden. Next, I just want to show you that I did pull out some worms while I was in there. And got a nice little pile of worms here. So we're going to go out, and we're going to have a bunch of chickens, and they all know something's coming here. Off they go. He's got it. The rest of them want it. I'll throw him another one. See if we can get a little one. Here, this little chicken. Anyway, good nutrition for the chickens. I don't do this very often, but it's nice to give them some good natural protein. Okay, well, there you have it. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. And I just want to say, for the first 3 people who live in Arizona, if you want some worms, subscribe to my channel and then send me a private message with your address, and I'll just mail you some free worms. They'll come by U.S. mail, and just open them up and start your own worm bin. All right, thanks again. Appreciate it, and have a good day.